Music City Social is produced by Star Maker PR Group, providing publicity and public relations services to the entertainment industry. Learn more at starmakerpr.com.
Normally, when introducing a guest, I spend a few minutes explaining who they are and a list of their accomplishments. In this case, it takes only a second. Ron Oates has been playing music in Nashville for over 43 years. He might be the most influential pianist to ever grace 16th Avenue. He is one of the people in the group known as the Boys Who Made the Noise on 16th Avenue. Without further ado, my next guest is Mr. Ron Oates. Ron Oates, welcome to Music City Social.
Hey, thank you very much for having me.
You bet. Now, I will be honest, I was unaware of you. Not that I know everybody in music in Nashville, but I went to your website and looked at discography. Then I went to allmusic.com and looked at all the artists you've played with, and it's every one of them.
That's a lot.
It's all of them. I mean, there are. I couldn't think of anybody you haven't played with. So, where did you grow up, and how did all of this begin?
Well, I grew up in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Wonderful little dusty southern town back in the mid-'40s. I started banging, literally, on my grandmother's piano when I was about 2 years old. And by the time I was, I think, second grade, my parents thought, well, maybe there's something to it. And they started lessons, and then I was hooked.
Wow.
I was hooked. I played forever. I almost have played forever, actually. In the ninth grade, I was, I don't know how this happened, but I was sentenced to military academy for 4 years by my parents, not by the legal system by any means. But anyhow, they sent me off to school. I don't know why they thought I needed discipline. All I wanted to do was play the piano.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to do. And so there I was for 4 years, except during the summers and Christmas vacation. And I just kept on taking piano lessons. By the way, I neglected to say that I started playing French horn in the 7th grade.
Oh.
So I played French horn from 7th grade on into college.
Yeah.
But I kept taking piano lessons. And then I went to East Carolina, majored in music, went through all that. Then in April of '63, oh, you can get this. I went to the Navy recruiter. I've been around Army my whole life, Fayetteville.
Sure.
Army town. So I went to the Navy recruiter, and I went through 2 days of what they called aptitude tests. And at the end of those 2 days, my aptitude, nuclear electronics.
Really?
It's the first time I've ever realized that the results of aptitude tests are not directly related to aptitude.
Yeah.
They said nuclear electronics, and I said, what is that? It's 1963.
Yeah.
What is that? They said, well, we send you to nuclear electronics school for 3 years, and then after that you have another 3 years of active duty, 6-year commitment.
Wow.
And I said, yeah, but what do I do after I go to school? They said, you work on nuclear submarines. And I went, whoa, that's cool. I'll do that. So I went to Raleigh, North Carolina to be sworn in for 6 years. Never thought about I would probably flunk out of that nuclear electronics school. It's the wrong side of the brain for me. And so literally 10 minutes before we sign up, get up and get sworn in, this lieutenant commander comes out from the back and says, Oates. I went, oh, God, I'm in trouble. He called me back and sat me down at his desk, and he said, you know, I've been looking at your records. He said, you've studied music your whole life. Did you not want to be in the Navy band? I said, the what? The Navy band.
So you didn't know it was an option?
No, I had no clue.
Wow.
So, see, the results of aptitude tests are where they need people.
Gotcha.
Not what you do.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I said, yes. He said, that's what I thought. He said, why don't you go back home, go to your recruiter tomorrow morning, take this note, tell him I said to fly you to Washington, D.C. to audition for the Navy band. And that's what I did.
Wow.
And that man, by doing his job, altered the course of the rest of my life.
That was a fork, a major turning point in your life.
Altered my life forever.
Wow.
So I auditioned in Washington, D.C. at Navy Music School and passed. somehow. And so then I went in the Navy. Went to boot camp. Boot camp was a breeze because with all the military academy and college and all that stuff, they made me a recruit chief petty officer and gave me my own band and had an office and all that stuff.
Oh, wow.
It was nice at boot camp.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And so after that, it's Navy Music School. They gave me an early out there. I was there about 10 months. Sent me to San Diego to a band. I was replacing a piano player who was getting out and retiring. So I was replacing him, and I checked in, and they said, "Oh, thank goodness you're here. We didn't think you were going to make it." And I said, "What do you mean?" "We're shipping out in 10 days. No, shipping out? Yeah, we're shipping out. Aircraft carrier. The band was attached to an admiral. Admiral's on the aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Wow.
And it's a longer story than I'm going to tell. But so we're 6 months away. We get to Japan. We're supposed to be there a couple of weeks. We're yanked out the next morning and rushed down to the Gulf of Tonkin. It's the beginning of the war.
Yep.
So there we were.
Wow.
Let me tell you, it's a great place to send a piano player to war.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So we're gone for 6 months. We come back. Somehow I get, I thought I was going to have to stay because bands usually make 2 cruises.
Okay.
They'd already made their first one. I thought I'd just have to stay there and they'd run a new band under me. So, but they didn't. I got orders to Pensacola. The last 3 years of my time in the Navy was in Pensacola. It was wonderful. That band was wonderful.
Wow.
Bandmaster was wonderful. Frank Eman, he's still a friend today at 94 years old.
Holy cow.
Still driving all over the country and doing everything he wants to do.
What kind of music did you play in that band?
In the Navy band?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, of course, you know they play marches.
Right.
But then they have like big band, dance band kind of stuff, which is not my favorite music to play.
Okay.
I'm more of a, when I moved to this town, I brought Ray Charles and Ramsey Lewis in my pocket.
Gotcha.
So when I got out of the Navy, I'd been there for 5 years. I extended for a year. I didn't tell you that part.
Okay. And you're still in Pensacola at this time?
Still in Pensacola. So I get out of the Navy, and I had a trio, piano, bass, drums, and a girl singer. And we played 5 nights a week at the top supper club in Pensacola. It was really nice, and the food was great, and we had a great time playing and good crowds. And there was one couple who came in a couple of nights a week because they loved the food, they loved the music, they just were there every week. And I got to be really good friends with them because, well, for one reason, I had a nice boat, and I didn't have a boat. So I always figured to have friends with boats.
There you
didn't have
go.
to have one. So anyhow, I got to be really good, really good friends with them. And they told me one night, they said, "You know, we've got another piano player friend from Pensacola." I went, "Okay, great." And they said, "Well, he's in Nashville." And I was, "Okay, great. He's one of the top session piano players." And I went, "Okay, great." I didn't know anything about Nashville or sessions or anything.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about it. I'd read credits on the albums before, but I always thought it was the artist's band or whatever.
Sure.
No, he's one of the top session players. I went, "Okay, great." And they said, "Next time he comes home to visit his parents, we'll get you together with him." I said, "Okay, great." So about a month later, they called and they said, "Ron, Larry's going to be in town this weekend." It's Larry Butler. "Larry's going to be in town this weekend, and we've told him you're going to come and meet him." I went, "Okay, great." So where they sent me was to this Catholic school. They have a rodeo kind of a thing, not horses and cows and stuff, but they called it a rodeo. But it was a benefit every year for the school, and Larry Butler was playing piano. Hometown boy, does good or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So my wife and I went, and he's up there playing piano, and I went, "Good grief, that's a piano player. That's a real piano player. I'm a hack." And so Larry got finished, and he got down off the stage, and my wife, Carol, said, "Let's go meet him." I said, "I'm not going to go bother that man." And she said, "What? No, I'm not. She said, we came over here. I said, I'm not doing it. And she said, I'll be right back. She went and got Larry, brought him over. He said, Ron, man, he said, I've heard all about you. He said, I've heard you're great. I'm flying back to Nashville tomorrow morning. Why don't you go with me? I went, okay, great. So I met him at the airport the next morning, bought a ticket, flew up here, and I spent 2 days staying at his house and going to sessions with him. He was playing on people that I've been hearing forever. Eddy Arnold, Brenda Lee.
So that's your first experience in Nashville, is top recording sessions with Larry Butler.
Yes. Absolutely. And
that doesn't happen every day.
And I'm sitting there. We're at Woodland Studio the first day.
Yeah.
We're at Woodland. I'm sitting there in the control room watching this. The musicians all act like they like each other. I'm going, whoa, now that's not right.
Yeah.
That's pretty strange. They all act like they like each other, and they started playing, and they were serious business.
Yeah.
It's the best music I ever heard in my life. And I'm sitting there going, man, I could do that. Well, we had 2 days of going to sessions. And let's see, Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday evening, I flew home to Pensacola. And 2 weeks later, I lived here. I went home and packed my suitcase and came back. Stayed at Larry Butler's house. And I mean, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I wanted to do something.
Yeah.
I had no clue. But it never crossed my mind that whatever it was wasn't going to work. I just went straight ahead. So we've had the guy in the Navy who truly altered the rest of my life. I wouldn't have been in Pensacola. I wouldn't have met those people. Wouldn't have had anybody to introduce me to Larry Butler.
And then your wife making the introduction to Larry Butler.
Yeah,
another...
she forced it.
Yeah.
I almost chickened out. Well, I did chicken out.
So upon moving here, was he instrumental in getting you into sessions?
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh, let me tell you. I moved here October 27th. November 5th, I was back in Woodland playing on a Bobby Goldsboro album.
Holy cow.
I played on Watching Scotty Grow. It's one of the
That's
first songs I ever played on.
You started at the top.
I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it. Larry Butler made me do it.
Larry. Wow, that is
what can I say
else.
about Larry Butler?
Well, and what an act of kindness, because a lot of musicians are like, I'm not bringing another drummer to my sessions.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Yeah, what a kind
How
soul.
generous could you possibly be?
Yeah. Wow, that is fascinating.
I know. I started the first week, and there I was. And now look, it wasn't all master sessions in the beginning, but I did that the first week of November, and Butler had been hired. Kelso Hurston was the president of Capitol.
Okay.
Kelso had hired Larry as an in-house producer, his first job as a producer in town.
Wow.
And so Larry sent me on sessions that he got called to do and couldn't do because he had to be in the office. And wow. Darn. Well, the first day, he took me across the street. Cedarwood Publishing was across the street from Capitol at that time. And he took me to Bill Denny and John Denny and said, here's your new demo piano player, pretty much. And so they started using me, and we worked over there 2 or 3 days a week. I had met, when I came up here for those 2 days, I had met Ron Chancey. By this time, Ron Chancey had been hired to run Buck Owens' publishing company, Blue Book Music. He had to do his first demo. Well, he called me. We had first demos together.
Wow.
And of course, I wound up doing all those Oak Ridge Boys albums
Yeah.
that he produced, all his hits on them. And there were just people there waiting to help me along, it looked like.
That's fantastic.
I know, I
mean,
cheated.
It really is. It's. I don't think I've ever heard a story go like that.
I know, people are going to think it's a lie, but certainly, certainly wasn't.
Your resume proves that it wasn't. So, and I have a question sort of unrelated to that, but when you watched Larry Butler play piano, you said, holy cow, this guy can play. Do you see yourself more as a stylist or a technician?
Oh, I'm a stylist for sure.
You are?
Yes. When I was still in college and analyzing piano players who I loved to listen to, who moved me, It's Ray Charles and Ramsey Lewis. And that's what I said a while ago. When I came to town, they were in my pocket.
Yeah.
And so some of that has always been a part of every record I've played on. Of course, I've modified it a great deal, but it's usually a feel thing.
Yeah.
With me. I can play country rhythm with anybody, but I have these other things that I do.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely not a technician. Bill Purcell's a technician. Oscar Peterson was another one who I loved, but I could have only ever been like a 20th rate Oscar Peterson. So I just play what I love. And another thing, when I first came here, about a year after I came here, I did a gospel album over it was Great Circle Sound. I don't know if it's still there. There was a John T. Benson company. It was one of the gospel groups. I don't recall which one that was, but I'm telling you, within a month after that, I was suddenly Mr. Gospel Piano. I don't know, because I had all that R&B stuff going on, and they went, whoa, that's the way our records are supposed to feel.
Yeah.
And suddenly I was over there as much as I was anyplace else working. And that was pretty cool, pretty interesting, and had a lot of leeway and stuff that I could play. So that lasted about 2 years. Doing that, I got too busy.
Wow. Now, you're doing all this session work very immediately, I might add.
I know, that's weird.
That is, that's weird.
Yeah.
Were people also asking you to tour with them?
Oh, okay, we did that Bobby Goldsboro album in November. January, he called me and asked me if I wanted to go out on the road with him. He'd just go and play 2 weeks at one of the big casinos someplace, and then he'd be back for a month or whatever. I said, no thanks. All the session players, or most of them, had come from touring bands, had come from out on the road, and they told me horror stories about station wagons breaking down in blizzards and stuff.
Yes.
And that's all I knew about. So Goldsboro asked me, and I said, no, thank you. And then he told me how much it paid, and I went, whoa, I'll have to think about that. Okay, yes, I'll go do that. So I went out, and that was great fun because it was big orchestras. And then a couple of months after that, he said, why don't you just start conducting the orchestra, which is what I know how to do. He said, play piano and conduct the orchestra. And I didn't know if I could figure out how to do that, but I thought Leon Russell did it.
Yeah.
If Leon could do it, I'll do it too. And I modeled myself after Leon Russell, playing the piano and conducting orchestra.
Interesting.
So then I did that for, I don't know, a year and a half. Because like I said, he didn't go out frequently.
Right.
And so I was able to stay home and build my clientele as best I could. And then one weekend we were in Portland, Oregon one night at the Opry House with a symphony. The next night we're in Seattle at the Opera House with a symphony. So we're not leaving till the next morning. And I was supposed to be on 2 sessions the next day at Woodland. And I said, Bobby, man, you think we can get out of here any earlier? And he said, well, get on the phone. If you can get us an earlier flight, we'll go. And I found one like at midnight. So we catch that plane at midnight. We fly to Chicago, and they come and they treat us like kings, and took us to this private place and let us rest up and have coffee or wash up or nap or whatever we wanted to do. And we got back on the plane. We're in first class, and I took the armrest, back then a big armrest, you could take the armrest out and put pillows in and cover myself up with a blanket. Went to sleep because I have to go to the studio when we get to Nashville.
Yeah.
So I'm asleep, finally, and I feel somebody tapping me on the shoulder. And I pulled the blanket back and I looked, and it's Bobby. I'm going, oh, please. And I pulled the blanket back over my head. And he said, no, man. He said, wake up. He said, I think we're being hijacked. I said, oh, good grief. Get away. And he said, no. He said, really? If you don't believe it, get up and look out the window. He said, I don't remember any ocean between Chicago and Nashville.
Holy cow.
We were being hijacked. We hijacked to Cuba.
You are kidding me.
No.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
What year was this?
71 or 72, I don't recall.
Wow. So what happened?
The plane blew up and we died. No, only kidding. It was this little dude in the back of the plane with bottles of nitroglycerin taped to his chest. So yes, we went to Cuba.
Holy cow.
Well, the stewardesses were rushing back and forth from the cockpit to the back of the plane. They're taking messages and notes and stuff. And I stopped one of them and asked them point blank, "Are we being hijacked?" And she said, "Shh." Didn't want anybody to know.
Yeah.
That didn't give it away, did it? No. Back then, you could say hijack on a plane and nobody cared.
Yeah.
Don't say it today.
Right.
Anyhow, she talked to me for a few minutes, or us for a few minutes, and we said, "Do you think you could open the bar?" Absolutely. And so Bobby and I just sort of drank our way to Cuba. So, do you want to hear any more of this story?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
After I looked out the window, the pilot came on and he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, due to inclement weather, we're proceeding to an alternate landing." And I'm looking out the window.
That's an alternate, all right.
I'm thinking, how far do you have to be able to see to land one of these things? It's a beautiful day out there. And everybody just sat back and believed it. Of course, I knew we were on our way to distant ports of call. So we fly near Guantanamo Bay. Heard somebody in the back of the plane saying, "We must be flying over Jacksonville. Look at all them ships down there." I'm thinking, well, yeah, right, we are. So we land, and every question was dispelled immediately because there are jeeps with soldiers and machine guns out there on the runway.
Yeah.
So we taxi up in front of the Fidel Castro International Airport, and the stewardess, sitting there or standing there in the front seat, at the front seat. And here comes this hijacker, and he's as close as we are, maybe closer. And he said, "Sorry for the inconvenience. At least you got a chance to see Cuba." Great. Just what I needed. In the meantime, those sessions are going on back in Nashville without me.
Yeah.
So the stewardess couldn't get the door open. I knew that guy was going to go, "Okay, you're messing with me."
Yeah.
It's over. The pilot came rushing out of the cockpit. He's soaking wet. He got the door open. Soldiers came on, armed soldiers came on, and drug that guy away. Wow. Drug him off the plane. Next thing, a doctor came on and checked everybody to see if anybody was injured or heart attack or anything. And
sure.
he said, "Is everybody up here okay?" It's just Bobby and me. "Everybody up here okay?" And I said, "Well, as a matter of fact, the whole first class section's wiped out." He didn't get it, but anyhow, the soldiers came back and got us, marched us in, took us downstairs, sat us in a room for an hour or 2 hours or something, and then took us back upstairs to the restaurant, and they gave us big ribeyes and beer. That's what we needed. Gave us ribeyes and beer and whatever we wanted, and we just sat there for hours until they agreed to refuel the plane.
Wow.
Flew back to Miami, had to go through customs like we'd been on vacation.
Yeah. Holy cow. So do you know what happened with the hijacker and all
I'm
that?
sure he came back in the boat lift when Castro sent all those prisoners to the United States.
Yeah.
I bet he's back here somewhere.
Wow. Holy cow. So after being hijacked, you come back to Nashville. It's early 70s.
Yeah.
What happens?
Well, that was pretty much the end of me in the road.
Yeah.
For a little while.
End of touring?
Yeah. Until, I don't know, that must have been in 71, because sometime in 72, I'd been doing Lynn Anderson records, and she asked me to conduct the orchestra for her. So I did that 2 or 3 times. That was crazy. I got to tell you this. You probably won't want to use it, but I'm going to tell you. So we go on a Glenn Campbell tour, huge orchestras. She had a band at that time that they worked at Knott's Berry Farm, and they would drive wherever Lynn would go to her concert. So Lynn and I'd fly first class, and they'd drive. And so here's the first time I'm with that band. This huge, like 40-piece orchestra. Rose Garden. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, you know, that song.
Yep.
So I'm up here with the orchestra, and I go, and the strings going da-da-da-da-da-da, and the band's going da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I went, whoa. They didn't even know her hit record.
Holy cow.
I said, okay, we'll be right back. I took him in the back room and had to teach it to him. That was really funny. We got on a plane the next morning, and I said, honey, if you'll do me a favor, I'll do you one. She said, what? I said, if you'll fire that band, I'll put you a band together of studio players. And that's what we did.
Wow.
I hired Steve Gibson play guitar, and Carl Himmel play drums, and I don't remember the rest, but I only did that, worked with her not a whole lot of times. After
that, was there much touring or not much?
For me?
Yeah.
Oh, not much. We did an album in '74 on Johnny Rivers, and Atlantic wanted the band who did the record to go out on the promotion tour. Money's too good to turn down.
Yeah.
So we went. I'll be honest with you, rock and roll. That was culture shock for me. Fayetteville, North Carolina, Pensacola, Florida, rock and roll.
Yeah.
All of a sudden. We had a great time. But, I mean, that wasn't very long at all.
Yeah.
And that pretty much was it. '74 was the last time I did anything on the road.
From that point forward, that's kind of when synthesizers and things were becoming more popular. Mm-hmm. Did you get into that, or were you?
I did, but not like a programmer or anything.
Right.
I had one of the first two Yamaha digital synths in Nashville. Shane Keister had the other one, and they were really cool. But the sounds were great. I mean, it was really early digital stuff.
Yeah.
But every time you wanted to change sounds, had little strips of digital tape that you had to put into the synth to change the sounds.
Wow.
It was wonderful. I used it on a lot of hit records.
How many hits do you think you've played on?
You know, I've never thought about that.
I mean, it's hundreds.
Had to be.
Yeah. So when more of the digital technology came out, like Fairlights and things like that, did you get into that? No?
No, that was beyond me. Way beyond me. Bob Montgomery, producer, friend of mine, had a studio in Franklin, the Bennett House.
Okay.
And he bought a Fairlight New England digital. Is that?
Yeah. We
bought one. He paid for it. We bought one of those, and I had a bass player who was really into programming and everything, and so we did a lot of work with that.
Wow.
But I could turn it on.
Yeah, those things were complex then, and
oh my God. Yeah.
Crazy.
Oh, I forgot something. When we were on that aircraft carrier in the South China Sea and the Gulf of Tonkin, we're losing planes. Not a daily thing, but maybe one a week or whatever.
Wow.
My main job, there's no piano on an aircraft carrier. My main job was to play organ at the memorial services for those pilots that didn't come back.
Yeah. And
so I learned how to at least get a B3 turned on.
Yeah.
Because they have two switches to turn on a Hammond B3. You know? I didn't realize at the time, but I was practicing up for Nashville.
Wow. Yeah, the B3 is a staple here.
Oh my, yeah.
Now, what's your favorite instrument to play? I mean, you
piano.
Love
obviously.
Always piano.
Yeah, I was really good on the French horn for how many years was that? 10 years.
Yeah.
but I haven't touched it in almost 112 now. But I mean, it's to me it wasn't as fulfilling as piano.
Sure. How did sessions change from the 70s into the 80s and 90s and even today?
Beginning in the early 70s, for me, in the early 70s, perhaps 72, 73, producers who I worked for would call me a week ahead of time before a project began. And I'd go by the office, they'd give me a cassette of the songs. I'd take them home and write the arrangements. Mm-hmm. Not a piece of white paper with 1144, 5511. I did all mine on manuscript paper. I used the number system, but I had all the performance notes, dynamics, everything. If I needed a guitar lick, I'd write it. I might have to teach it to somebody, but I don't mind that. The bass line, it might be necessary, I'd write that. I did that forever, but it was really funny because in doing that, I became leader on an awful lot of sessions.
Wow.
But over the years, the players back then were magnificent. They were just wonderfully elegant players. And as the musicians became more, I don't know if they were more studied, but they were certainly ages beyond and performance. And it became a whole new deal in the studio. And with the digital machines, suddenly you didn't have to get it right the first time.
Right.
And you could spend as much time as the budget would allow you to do.
Mm-hmm.
Things changed from that point on.
Sure. Do you record at home now?
No.
You don't?
No.
Never got into that, or?
No, I did not.
How come?
Well, playing acoustic piano would require a whole lot bigger setup than overdubbing synths.
Gotcha.
And no, I just never did it. Besides, I love the camaraderie and the creativity that bounces off of each other when you're working live.
Now, you've done some work on some movies.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
Tell me about that. And also, not just the work, but how did the relationships happen?
It was more of that accidental stuff.
Was it?
Yeah. It was more about people just standing there going, oh, it's about time you got here. Would you? I don't know. Well, for instance, the buddy system that I did, the theme, actually it was a closing theme. I went over the credits with Gladys Knight. But I had worked with her previously, and they just called me and wanted my arrangements and piano on that. And so I flew out to LA and did that with her. The first time I worked with Gladys was we did the first recording ever of Wind Beneath My Wings.
Really? I noticed that on your website, and I wondered.
That's the first one ever. And she was in some sort of negotiations with CBS at the time, and contract negotiations. And it went and went and went, and the song not going to wait for her, or not going to wait for anybody. And so we wound up not having the first single on that song.
Wow. She did, in fact, release it, though.
Pardon me?
Did they ever release it as a single?
It's on an album.
For Gladys?
Yeah. Yeah, it's well, you've heard it.
I haven't. Not her version. I will listen to it.
It's on the website.
I will listen to it.
That's the first thing that plays when you open the website.
Oh, then I have heard it. Okay.
Yeah.
I kind of go quick when I look at stuff, so I'll pay attention. Wow, that is something else. That's a huge song.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. I can't imagine. At last count that I heard, that song had been covered over 800 times.
I believe it. Yeah. Who's been your favorite artist to play for?
Gosh, that's really hard to say. I'm afraid somebody will hear it and be angry, or have their feelings hurt. At the top of the list would be Dolly Parton, Gladys Knight.
Yeah.
Gosh, I've had too many to think, I guess.
That's a lot.
I've been too lucky.
Yeah. What was your busiest time recording?
70s, 80s.
Early 80s? Mm-hmm. Why do you think that was? Was it just the boom in music, country music at the time? Or?
It was the heyday of this town. It's certainly different these days.
Yeah.
I feel so fortunate to have been a part of it in the heyday.
Yeah.
But the 70s and 80s, I was really, really busy. And it's one of those, and I'm sure it's the same way for an awful lot of the musicians. It's like a dream world, and it's not ever going to slow down.
Yeah.
Well, yes, it will. Yes, it did. In 1991, I stopped hiring out.
So in the early 90s, you made that shift. Did you ever come back? Or was that it?
No, I've never put my name in the session hat again.
Wow.
I hire out occasionally people, producers who I know and respect and know the music's going to be good and the artists are going to be good.
Yeah. That had to be hard, though.
Pardon me?
That had to be hard.
Oh, I'll be honest with you. I made that decision and started telling people, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm already booked," and it was scaring me to death.
I'm sure.
So there I was, people standing in line trying to break into the session business, and I'm trying to break out, and I'm wondering about the wisdom of that. But I wanted to produce more. I wanted to have more hands-on the music than I'd been having for years.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was a great decision. It's pretty scary at
I
first.
can imagine. Yeah. So it's been 20 years.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much all you've been doing? Is producing and...
Yeah.
Wow.
Arranging and developing.
Interesting.
Writing, composing.
Yeah. Do you miss the studio?
I miss the creative element. I miss the moments of bouncing things off of each other and listening for what someone is doing and supporting it the next time around.
Yeah.
Having two hands full of notes, it's easier to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. If the music were good and the producers were good and you could go back to that, would you?
That's a tough question. Like I said, I work for great producers here and there.
Yeah.
I love doing it while I'm doing it, and then I don't think about it anymore.
Yeah.
But I get excited about going in to do a project. Even if I'm not the arranger or not session leader, I still just go and do it just for the creative outlet.
Sure.
And perhaps they have an artist there who could use what I do. Sure. I did an album this past year on Marty Robbins.
Wow.
God, what a singer.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. You'll recall that he was the lead singer of Shenandoah.
Yeah. What
a singer. After the first day, I told him, man, it is so wonderful to hear that voice in these phones.
Yeah.
It's just wonderful.
Who else is like that you worked with, that when you heard him in the studio, just went, man, that's a voice?
Dobie Gray.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Oh,
interesting.
Yeah. God, he was wonderful. Mark Gray. Do you remember Mark Gray?
I know the name, but I don't know why.
He began noticeable life in exile. He was in exile.
Okay, yeah.
Then he had a deal on CBS.
Okay.
Had a bunch of hits.
Was Gladys Knight that way?
Did
you hear her sing live in the studio?
Oh, let me tell you, when I went out to do that movie theme in L.A., this is interesting. I was also doing an album on Dolly at the same time in L.A.
Wow.
When she called me to... Dolly, I'm sorry, I'm messing up the timeline here.
That's okay.
Dolly called and wanted me to work on an album in L.A., and I said, I'm going to be in L.A., but I'm writing orchestra arrangements for a Gladys Knight thing, and I need to be able to have time to do that. And she said, you can do both. I'll have a piano put in your room. And she did. So I did both.
Holy cow. Wow.
But we were doing the string overdubs. We did the horn overdubs, and then we're doing the big string section. Well, I had to go to the bathroom. So the bathroom in this studio was way across the studio and out another door. And they were going to do, no, wait, we just finished the strings. And they were going to do Gladys's lead vocals. So I went to the bathroom, and when I came back through that door, they were letting Gladys warm up, but she's there in the middle of that room, dark, no light at all, just a light on the music stand, and her there with her headphones on. And I couldn't hear the track, but I stood there and listened to her. And it was enough to bring you to your knees. It was so wonderful.
Wow.
Oh my God, it was great.
How incredible.
There are a few who just nailed me. Dolly and I had a mutual admiration society sort of a thing.
That's neat.
There were a couple of times over the years that, I'll Always Love You for Best Little Whorehouse.
Did you play on that?
Yeah.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
In the middle, she does this recitation, and I'm doing this high piano thing behind her recitation. And so I start playing my little thing, and she doesn't say anything. And I'm playing along, and there's nothing going on. And suddenly she says, "Oh, crap, you've done it to me again."
She was busy paying attention.
She starts listening to me and didn't do her deal.
Oh, man. That says a lot about your playing.
Oh, gosh.
It really does.
She's wonderful.
So what now? What do you do right now?
Okay, right now, I'm sort of a Renaissance man, I think. I found out this morning that I've been nominated for the Rockabilly Hall of Fame.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
I don't even know. I don't know anything about it. But I sure played on a lot of records of people who are in there.
Yeah.
I even did Wanda Jackson records, for goodness sake.
Really?
Way back in 1970.
Wow.
Yeah, Larry Butler produced. Roy Orbison
Yep.
did his records way back.
Wow.
Anyhow, I mean, nominated doesn't mean in, but it's nice.
Absolutely. So how are you a Renaissance man right now?
That, for one. For another, I'm in the process of negotiations on a deal for my instrumental music.
Neat.
Let me see. There's something else. Okay, I'll take that back. I'm not a Renaissance man. No, I was just thinking this morning. There's three things that are going on that just might turn a corner and make me do more stuff.
Yeah.
I'm excited about everything, and here we are talking.
Yeah.
That's something.
Yes, it is. Sure is.
I mean, I do a lot of composing, and it isn't country.
Yeah.
When I write,
what is it?
It's thematic. TV,
yeah,
film score type things.
What a transition. Really interesting.
Well, I'm an arranger at heart, so when I play, although there's a lot of the R&B-ish influence here and there, if you look, you'd have to look at my chords to see what I'm playing, but some of that's pretty complex. I would say it's complex in the same way that Jimmy Webb's piano playing is complex, or Randy Newman.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not putting myself in their class by any means, but it's that type of thing.
That's interesting. When you play now, are you still in love with it like you were in 7th or 8th grade?
It's a different thing. I'm passionate about it now. I'm as passionate about music in this town as I was when I moved here in 1969. I wake up and go, whoa, yeah, why would anybody quit this?
Yeah. What do you think music is right now? That's a loaded question, I know.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to touch it.
Do you think it's overproduced?
Oh, yes. Yeah, of course it is. And the players are wonderful. Music doesn't seem to have as much discipline as it used to. When we were heavy making records, 3 or 4 sessions a day, 5 days 6 days, sometimes a week. Maybe 750 sessions a year, 500. That's a lot of work.
That's a lot of work.
I'll speak for myself. I listened first to the song, then to the lyrics, and then to the singer. When I was writing arrangements for the rhythm sessions, I would write them to support the singer. I would learn their range. I'd put it in the key perfectly for them. I would write all the instruments around it to support whatever she or he was doing. Dynamics are a major part of my reputation in this town.
Okay.
And dynamics don't necessarily mean play loud, play soft.
Right.
I have a thing called implied dynamics.
What is that?
It's no secret, but I don't know why nobody else knows it. And perhaps they do too, just quite by accident. But maybe in the second verse of a song, I may alter a chord. Maybe the pedal tone, maybe the bass note would be different in a chord, and maybe make that chord voiced a little bit differently. And everybody's still playing on the same level that they were playing. But what happens with those kind of dynamics is it moves people on the inside and they don't even know why.
Without volume. Sure.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. I can't think of an example, but I think I hear it sometimes in well-made music.
It's the way I've always done it. When I came, you'll think this is pretty funny. When I came to town, honestly, there were 3 and 4 chords in country records.
I believe it.
And I would attempt, this may have been arrogance on my part, I would attempt to add something different. Not something that would make the radio listeners go, ew, what was that? That was awful. But just something to perhaps expand their listening experience, to make their ears a wee bit more sophisticated.
Yeah.
And if I could get away with that and have a hit record with something a little bit different in it, that they liked it but they didn't know why,
right,
I could move a little bit more the next time.
Yeah.
But I never did anything to just because it would sound different.
Right.
That's not a good enough reason to do it. I would do it if it benefited the song, if it benefited the lyric and the melody line. But implied dynamics, I've just made a career out of it.
That's neat.
That was a rather simplistic explanation I gave you,
but it made sense.
I could explain more about the way the chords look, but nobody would want to hear that.
I'm a big fan of, I would say, late 60s through mid 70s recordings, because there was multi-track came into view, so we could add layers and we could be a little more creative. But
8-track was big when I came to town.
Yeah.
They were talking about 16-track.
Yeah. And so it gave the artist more creativity, but they were still doing, drums and bass tracking at the same time.
Oh.
And there was more interaction in music. It wasn't the bass player cuts at home, the vocalist does his thing
none of that ever.
And music felt more organic.
I mean, we had, it was piano, bass, drums, a couple of acoustic guitars, maybe 2 piano players, one to play organ and vibes and all the utility stuff, and a piano player, electric guitar, bass, what they called tic-tac bass, which was an electric, like Dan Electro made one that everybody was using, and played the exact same notes that the bass player was playing. Of course, part of the Nashville sound was that the left-hand piano played those same notes too.
Gotcha.
We all played the same bass line.
Neat.
It's part of the formula of the Nashville sound. Where I drifted. Where were we?
We were talking about how music used to be recorded and tracked differently.
Yeah. I mean, we had all those instruments, plus we'd have background vocals in the studio.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a band.
And often string sections, when Bill Justice was still with us.
Do you think anybody has the balls to do that now?
Oh, no. Heck no.
I mean, it just seems like, in fact, I was thinking the other day, I thought, okay, a different chord arrangement, that's going to be hard to come by. Pretty much everything has been played. The vocals, or the voices, I should say, the talent of the current artists, it's not different enough from one another that you go, wow, there's like a Roy Orbison. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like there's the style that is so unique to that. And then now with Pro Tools, I'm even hearing the same drum sounds being used because they're triggering electronically.
Oh, really?
Yeah, as a drummer, I hear
Yeah,
that. And
I would
especially
say.
on rock and pop albums,
Yeah.
I am hearing the same drums being triggered in Pro Tools. It just seems somebody's got to do something different, or all this shit is going to sound the same for the next 10 years. And I'm wondering, what is that? How would, if you had total control, the money, somebody with a great voice, the players, how would you do it to make it different?
I don't know. Nashville sound is gone.
It is gone.
It's absolutely gone.
It's
Demographics have dictated that they try to woo pop acts in here, and it's all, you can't tell the difference. Mid 80s, our records all started sounding like hashed over Eagles records.
Yeah. Wow, that's well put. And I worked for Lee Greenwood in the late 80s. And, the part I enjoyed about his show the most was the early stuff that he did.
Oh,
I
loved his singing.
Yeah, I did too. And live, he was amazing.
I worked some with him, but not a lot.
He could never capture on a record how he actually can sing.
But he was one of the early ones who did Wind Beneath My Wings.
Yes, he did.
He and B.J. Thomas.
Yeah, yeah. But I miss that old style of recording when it sounded like a band, because you don't hear that anymore.
I mean, even the background singers go home and do it.
Yeah, yeah.
I need to be there.
Yeah.
I don't want it. I may be a control freak, but I don't want to lose. I don't want somebody else's ideas about how my record's supposed to sound.
Right.
And I'm not talking about the people who are in the room creating it. I'm talking about people who are out there just putting whatever they think.
Right.
And then you hear it and you go, nah, we need to change that. And look how much time you're taking to change it. No, that's still not right. Let's do it. Let's.
Yeah. And everything is syncopated and retimed and pitch corrected. And,
oh, yeah.
Some of the best music is so imperfect. And that's what makes it beautiful.
I agree.
It's just, that's what made it music.
I agree. We don't want anything. We become too sophisticated, though. We don't want anything hurting our tender ears, though. So we fix it.
Yeah.
And my ears are a whole lot better than I wish they were. Mm. I don't have perfect pitch, but relative pitch is pretty darn good.
Yeah.
And it's better than I wish it was sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I will fix something if I need to.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you put a record out, and if it's great, it's great forever. If it's bad, it's bad forever.
Yeah, that's right. Now, your experience moving to Nashville is different than anyone I've ever heard of. But because you work with new artists and you give them some guidance, I ask everyone this question on this show. If you move to Nashville today and you want to play piano, you want to play in bands, you might want to do sessions, what are some of the first things you would do to establish yourself?
I have no clue. I would never suggest to a songwriter or a young artist, move to Nashville, you're really great. I would never say that to anyone now.
How come?
Well, there's almost no chance of anything. You need to align yourself with someone who knows how to teach you and how to guide you in the ways that you need to be going and what not to do. And I tell them almost everyone is suspect. And if somebody says something to them or promises them something, or you know how that is.
Yeah.
I mean, they come to town and all they want to hear is how great they are, because that's what they've heard at home.
Yeah.
Mom and daddy, aunts and uncles, friends, how great they are. Come to town, the whole town's full of great.
It sure is.
But all they want to hear is a continuance of that ego food, and they want to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
But there are people in this town who have underlying reasons for saying things. And I tell them, call me immediately and tell me who that is. And if I don't know who it is, I've got a couple of great music attorneys, friends I can call, and I'll be right back with you, and I'll tell you all about them.
Wow. Well, that's good advice.
Oh, it's indispensable.
Yeah. Wow.
It's a frightening place to be.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating. It's frightening, frustrating, and painful. It takes a long time to learn that no doesn't mean anything except it's somebody's opinion. All those no's make one yes mean a whole lot more.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I cheated when I came to town, and and stuck with it. Larry Butler, bless his heart, Larry Butler spent the night at his house the first night after I moved here.
Mm-hmm.
Went to his office the next day, and he had a piano in his office, and he put down a number chart in front of me. And he said, okay, here's a tempo. I'd never seen a number chart before. Gave me a tempo. He said, now play that. Play rhythm. And I played it, and I don't know how I did it, but I played all the right chords and everything. He said, how'd you know how to do that? And I went, I don't know, just lucky. Well, I knew what ones and fours, legitimate music with ones and fours and
right.
fives, but they're Roman numerals, but it's the same numbers.
Yeah. What a story. Ron, can you think of anything you'd like to add? Any advice you'd want to give someone in the music business, thinking about the music business?
All I can say is somehow align yourself with someone you can trust and depend on, someone knowledgeable, someone with experience.
Yeah.
Not someone who just says they have experience. You look at people's websites and you can tell the scams.
Yeah.
How things are worded. If you think you want to do something with somebody, check their track record. Look on the internet. If they're not on the internet, they're not anything. Yeah. They've got to have some presence on the internet. If they haven't, they haven't done anything.
Yeah.
It's dangerous. Be careful. I wish I could have a happier outlook for people, but it's tough.
Yeah.
Just be prepared for tough.
Yeah.
And I swear it's tough. But if you have that fire in your belly, if you have that dream in your heart, don't deny it. Go for it. And don't let anybody make you quit. I didn't. Well, somehow nobody was trying to make me quit when I came here. You know what? If I'd known how tough it was, I wouldn't have done it. I mean, I didn't even want to meet Larry Butler.
Yeah. And look what happened.
I know. So we saw Larry, Nancy and I, my wife, and I saw Larry last, I don't know I can't remember if it was last August or August before last when we were down in the condo, and he was ill at that time, and I took my wife over to introduce her to Larry, and I said, this is Larry Butler. It's his fault I'm here. And he said, I've never been more proud to take credit for anything in my life.
Oh,
I thought that was wonderfully
that's
sweet.
neat.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Music City Social. If you or someone you know would be a great guest on Music City Social, please visit musiccitysocial.net and click the Recommend a Guest link at the top of the page. Music City Social is produced by Star Maker PR Group, providing publicity and public relations services to the entertainment industry. Learn more at starmakerpr.com.